Hello everybody, I am back with another video, and today I'm going to be doing part 2 of my 3-part series of growing up in the 90s. Now part 1, if you haven't watched already, I went in-depth discussion about my favorite TV shows from the 90s, so if you didn't get a chance to watch that, I'll definitely be posting a link to the bottom of this video. And then of course I'll be doing my video game segment after this video, which should be up very soon after this one. But today I'm going to be specifically talking about some of my favorite animated movies. Many of which, and I would say the majority of them, came out in the 90s, but many of them came out long before the 90s, but I didn't, watch them, obviously, until the 90s because I was born. And, the 90s was a decade where these videos really gained a lot of their popularity and really just made a very deep impact on my generation, for sure. So I want to go ahead and talk about some of these movies, share some of my favorite memories of watching these films with my my parents and my sister. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video, and by all means, leave a comment or a video response letting me know some of your favorite movies, animated films that is, from the 90s, or even before then. Alright, so I figured I'd start with my favorite Disney movie and animated film of all time, and that is The Lion King. Now, there are several reasons why this is my favorite animated movie. Not only because of the musical score, a lot of the songs done by Elton John is just absolutely fantastic. The characters and just the story in and of itself is just phenomenal. One of the greatest stories, by Disney animators of all time, in my personal opinion. But one of the reasons why I like this movie so much is just because of the memories I have watching it with my sister. When we watched this movie religiously, and what was funny is we actually reenacted a scene from this movie. And if you guys have seen the movie, when Scar and Mufasa are on that rock, and Mufasa's obviously hanging on, and Scar lets him go and essentially kills him. Well, my sister and I were reenacting that scene on the top of our staircase when we were really young. I know, we were really stupid. And unfortunately, I was Mufasa, so my sister, literally, I kid you not, pushed me down the stairs. I tumbled down the stairs and ended up breaking my collarbone. So that was a really memorable experience. It'll always be tied to this film. Of course, it's not a very happy experience, but what is happy is that is the night my dad actually had gotten Cartoon Network on our TV. So when I'd gotten back from the hospital and I got my cast on, I sat there and watched Cartoon Network and ate Cheetos until 4 in the morning. So I know it's so strange for me to tie such a memory to this film, but I do, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. But if you have not seen The Lion King, there's something wrong with you. Now, moving right along here, there's another film that my sister and I really adored, and that is The Fox and the Hound. And this movie actually came out, I believe, in 1981. But if you have not watched this film, definitely do so. It's a great family-friendly film about these two, a fox and a hound, obviously, and they kind of have two separate owners that really do not like each other. One of the guys is kind of like a southern guy, really stubborn and just very mean and angry all the time, while this kind-hearted old woman takes care of this young fox. And it's kind of their story as they grow up and how they try to be friends, but as they get older, of course, they can't really be friends because of their owners hate each other, basically. So it kind of stirs a lot of conflict. But it was such a great movie, and even to this day, the ending almost brings me to tears. But it really is a very, very great movie, and if you have not seen it, definitely do so. Now, I also really quickly wanted to point out some of the Super Nintendo games here. We had The Lion King, Toy Story, Disney's Aladdin, The Page Master, and The Jungle Book, which brings me to my next movie I wanted to talk about, which is The Page Master. Now, if you've not seen this movie, I definitely encourage you to do so as well. This came out in 1994, and for those of you that are familiar with Home Alone and Richie Rich and things like that, Macaulay Culkin actually starred in this film. And he was pretty young in this movie. But basically, he goes to the library, and it's really rainy out, and he ends up slipping in the library, and he falls into this dream world where he ends up visiting all of these old classic novels like Treasure Island and Moby Dick and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and all these other crazy universes. And he has these 3 little companions with him at all times. They're actually books. And it goes from, an actual movie with no animation at all to when he goes into this dream world, it's actually an animated version of himself, and an animated version of all these other characters. So it's really pretty unique, an interesting movie. Definitely was not reviewed very well, but Patrick Stewart's in it, and a few other people as well. So I really encourage you guys to see that movie. It's really pretty hysterical, and my sister and I love that movie to death. Now, of course, we also have the Toy Story movies, Toy Story 1 and 2, which came out in the 90s, and then Toy Story 3, which came out recently. Toy Story, the original, is actually my favorite Pixar movie of all time. I've watched that movie probably over 100 times. I mean, it's absurd the number of times I've seen it. I love it so much. I have the game here as well, which is actually really fun. But Toy Story 1 and 2 definitely I hold dear and near to my heart. I just love them so much. Such an interesting story. And of course, Randy Newman with those crazy classic songs that he plays for those movies are great as well. Now, one movie I want to discuss really quickly that I doubt that many people have actually seen. It came out in 1995, and that is The Pebble and the Penguin. Now, my sister and I love this movie as well, but it's really pretty interesting. It basically retells how a real actual ceremony that penguins do, it's like a mating ceremony where the male penguin actually presents some type of stone or whatever to, their female interest or whatever. And that's what Hubie, this little weirdo-looking penguin guy here, he's a really shy guy, he ends up presenting this pebble to this girl that he really likes named Marina. Well, this other evil guy named Drake, kind of gets in the way. It stirs a whole bunch of craziness, and things kind of get out of hand. Well, he meets his buddy Rocco here, and, it's just a really fun little adventure, basically, for Hubie trying to get this pebble to his, wonderful little Marina here. And it's just such a, great movie. I mean, I don't know. I just don't feel like the animated films these days, the storytelling is as good, but that's just probably just, the bias and nostalgia in me talking. But I just love this so much. It's really great. And if you haven't seen this, definitely see if it's on Netflix. I don't know if it would be or not, but I think it would hold up pretty well today. I haven't watched it in a while, but I really, really enjoyed this one as a kid. And finally, before I just mention a whole bunch of movies, I wanted to go into a series of films that my sister and I really adore, and that is the Land Before Time movies. Now, the first one actually came out in 1988 here, but the rest of them came out in the 90s. Now, I think they're still making these movies today, which is pathetic. I think there's like 14 or 15 of them, something absurd like that. But it's the original 5 that I fell in love with my sister. After that, they got different voice actors, and things just started getting even weirder. I haven't watched these in a while, and to be perfectly honest with you guys, they're like sing-along movies. They're not like terrible sing-along movies like, Playhouse Disney or anything like that absurd, but they are sing-along movies, so I don't know how well these would hold up today. And the voice acting, I remember, was very childish, and the dialogue was very kind of corny and cheesy. So these may be actually terrible by today's standards, but I just remember loving these movies to death, singing along to them with my sister, and they're just, it's movies about dinosaurs and just these, 5 little friends. They just go on these, epic adventures, and I always aspired to be like Littlefoot. He's, the little long-necked dinosaur. He kind of, heads the group. He's kind of like the Tommy of the Rugrats. He's just very courageous and always willing to kind of take the step out there and, go out on a limb to save a friend. He'll really essentially do anything to help his friends out. But, you have Petrie, Spike, oh my gosh, Ducky, Sarah, all these, crazy dinosaurs. And, and they're all really great friends. And they just go on these, epic adventures. And it's just really interesting. And, of course, the first 5 movies are the movies that I fell in love with. If you can find any of them on Netflix or cheap on DVD, maybe give it a look. I'm not promising you anything. Don't come back at me with hate mail if you absolutely hate these movies once you see them. But I really enjoyed them growing up. Okay, so finally I wanted to go through and just kind of mention a bunch of movies that I know many of you guys are probably saying, Rusty, why haven't you said this or that movie? I want to go ahead and announce some of my other favorites that I don't actually have the VHS tapes or DVDs for any longer. But I do plan to get at some point. Aladdin, one of my favorites, came out in 92. The Lion King came out in 94. Iron Giant, really great movie, came out in 1999. Toy Story 2 came out in 99. Bug's Life, a wonderful Pixar movie, came out in 98. Hercules, one of my personal favorites. My dad and I love that movie. We actually have the soundtrack We love it so much. Came out in 1997. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which of course is going to be making an appearance in the new Kingdom Hearts game, so get excited for that. The Rescuers Down Under was a great movie. Came out in 1990, and there were a few sequels to that as well. And then there were several movies, Disney movies, that came out like in the 40s and 50s and 60s that I didn't mention in this video, and I didn't actually have the copies of, but I still wanted to mention because they were some of my favorites growing up as well. The Jungle Book, Lady and the Tramp, 101 Dalmatians. Who Framed Roger Rabbit actually isn't a Disney movie, I don't believe, but it came out in 1988, and it was also one of my favorites. I actually had that game for the Game Boy, and my sister and I would like write down the codes whenever we beat a level because we were so obsessed with that game, and it was pretty darn challenging. So when we beat a level, man, we were jumping up like, there was no tomorrow. We were super excited, but tangent, I'm sorry. Alice in Wonderland, another great film. Peter Pan, Robin Hood, Snow White, and that's just, to name a few, you guys. There are so many wonderful Disney movies. Fantasia, I mean, I could go on and on. But I don't want this video to go on too long because I've already taken enough time and longer than I wanted to. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I think this is something really interesting to kind of, share a part of my childhood with you guys. And I hope you guys did enjoy it. Of course, I still have the video game segment coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. And guys, please leave a comment letting me know some of your favorite animated movies growing up as well. Thank you guys for watching.